Hi there, I'm Linda and this is Huttons Valley Permaculture. Well, I've got my sweet potato slips all ready to go into the ground. I've just got to get my ground ready for them. So in today's video, we're going to clear this garden bed and start planting these beautiful sweet potatoes. We had a quick look at this garden bed in last week's video, and I did mention that I'm going to preserve the leeks down the middle and get some seed from those. And likewise with these parsnip plants at the end, I'm going to let those flower and also go to seed. Now I'll let all 5 plants, I think there is, flower, but I might just pull out a few of those plants once they have finished flowering and are starting to go to seed, so that I don't have too many seed heads for this area. I might just leave 1 or 2 plants, but for the moment, I'm going to leave the 5 plants because it does, I think, increase genetic diversity. I did see a Charles Downing video who said if you leave more carrot plants, you get sort of cross-pollination between the plants and it makes for stronger seeds. So I assume it would be much the same with parsnips. And as for the other plants going to seed here, I've got celery, which I don't need because there's plants elsewhere. This is a hybrid sort of brassica that turned out to be really a nothing plant, so that will go. And the other plants I've got seeding in this garden are beetroot seeds. But again, I've got other plants elsewhere in the garden going to seed, so I can really clear all of those plants out of this garden bed. And there might just be a small harvest of potatoes to do. So I'm just going to make a start on this end of the garden bed and just clear and pull the potatoes as I go. All right, well that potato wasn't planted very deep, so pretty unsuccessful little plant actually. There's a few little potatoes. Now I think these ones are a Desiree, and I threw them into the garden after harvesting a few other things, but I didn't really update the compost and I didn't put the potatoes in too deep. Now that one was a mega potato from my last potato haul, but I don't think it's produced too much. Lovely colour though. We might just throw that one in the compost now. Yeah, where's my sickle? Wow, that's pretty interesting. These little potatoes have grown up on the stalk. I haven't seen that before. They're like little apples or cherries off a stalk. The skins at this stage are very fragile, and it doesn't take much when you're rubbing across the dirt to sort of scrape the skin. So I might grab a shovel actually. The soil's pretty tight in this area. There we go. Oh, that one's not too bad. Mini parsnip. Not very successful plants, those ones. They each, I don't know if that's just the seed potato, that one looks like it, and this one probably is too. That plant was a little bit more successful. Not too much in the way of weeds in this garden bed. I've kept it fairly well mulched for most of the time, which really helps to keep down all the weeds. Alright, I think that is all the potatoes. Now we've got our potatoes out of the ground, I can start to work at getting these into the ground. The soil doesn't need too much work. I think I'll just go along, plant my potato slips. Although down this area, there's a lot less compost on the soil surface, so I do have some compost that I can add first. And all of this beautiful organic material that I've just pulled out of the bed, I'll be popping up into my compost, but I've still got a pile waiting. I'm just waiting on my cows to make their contributions to the compost pile so I can layer up all this material as well. Worms are still working on something there. I won't break that up too much. Just pile you over there. Spread out the rest. Now, not only are these plants going to go into the garden bed I've just cleared, but they're also going to go into this garden bed just behind me. So I'm going to have a long row of sweet potatoes. I will be selling them through a local sort of food co-op where they get food from local growers and sell it to consumers, and it's a not-for-profit, so it's a great way to kind of move on any excess. And they don't have many growers of sweet potatoes, so I want to get a couple of beds going so that I can sell to people in the neighbourhood. Now with that garden cleared, we can get to the exciting part and have a look at these plants that I've grown. I haven't dug any of them out yet, except for one that I shared with a friend, but none of these big ones. So let's have a look. Now, a couple of months ago, I started these plants by putting some tubers that I grew last year just into some moist mushroom compost in this polystyrene container. And I did have a cover on it to start with, just to keep the moisture in, and I've kept it in a warm spot. Now, once the little plants start to shoot, you've got to expose it to light. So I've always got it in a warm spot with plenty of light, and they've grown really well. So let's pull some out and see how many plants we can get out of this lot. Now, you've got to be pretty careful doing this because they will have developed some roots. So you can see here, these plants are just about to take off like the ones in the container, but they're not quite there yet. So I might still leave those in, although I could plant this whole potato and that will just start to grow in place. But if you waited, you could sort of separate all of these off into individual plants and have your whole garden full of sweet potatoes. Now, I can't quite remember how many I've got in here, so I've just got to be very careful not to kind of pull any roots off. Now, what I also have done is some of the long stalks I just pegged to the ground, and they're growing some roots now, so that sort of creates more plants as well. So you can see there, I pegged that down at this point, just using this piece of timber here. And you can see a few of the plants have developed new little root systems, so I'll be able to just sort of trim those right there and use that as another plant. Okay, so that's a nice little plant. What I can do is just sort of chop in between. There's not really the little root systems going on some of them, so I wouldn't want to pull those off, but you could just about pull that off and that would be a plant. You could probably pull 3 plants off, which we might try and do that just to see how that goes. And that would be a little plant that you could pull off there. So you can just snip that off and that's good to go in the soil. So that's a good example of a plant that's ready to go. That's that one there. And another one here. So for this one, I'll just split it there, plant this side and then plant that side separately, and they should both grow as well. And I'll put the worm back. So how many plants will we be able to get out of here? That is the question. Now that's just a small little potato, but it's come up with quite a few plants on that one. So again, you'd be able to pull that one off. I don't want to pull them off if they're too small, but that one would be good to go. And that one's good to go in the ground. But I might just sort of cut through those ones to separate them out rather than pulling them off the potato itself. And let's see what else we can get out of here. Wow. These ones all a bit tangled. All right. Look at that, even that tiny bit's made a couple of great plants. And we've got all of those, including some rooting ends from that end of it. And we've got this, which has got lots of little plants coming off. See, I reckon I can sneak all of those off there. That's another 3 plants. That's got a really good root system. Shouldn't take too long for those to get going in the ground. Now that's got all of those plants off, but you can still see there's little plants wanting to grow there and also at the other end. So what I'll do, you could halve that and you'll have 2 different plants. Just plant the whole tube. You can see there that might be another little one just starting to grow there too. Just popping them down in these buckets so I don't lose any. And I think there's still one more sweet potato with a few leaves coming on it, hiding in this tub. Oh yes, That one's got plenty of life coming on it. I'll probably halve it, plant two ends. All right, so I've got this plant. I will just cut it. That's one little plant there. And then I'm going to halve it down the middle. Then I can just plant that. And likewise with these ones. So just here where we've got the plant rooting, you could cut that off, which I will do. I'll see if that's enough root. I'm kind of a bit concerned that it's not enough, but there we go. I'm a bit concerned that that's not enough root on that plant, but I'll plant it right down the end just so we can keep an eye on it and see if it actually did survive. Now I've got another one here, but what I'll do is leave that on the main plant, but just bury those roots under the ground so that the plant sort of is off and racing right from the get-go. With these two, that one and this tuber here, it's not quite ready to be split up, I don't think. But with both of these, I think I will gift those to some of my neighbours and friends. So in addition to these two that I'll gift to others, I have about, I think there's about 25 of these, what they call potato slips, just the little plant with the roots. And I've got another 15 of these plants that I'll just plant with the tuber itself. So that will well and truly fill that garden bed and also give lots of sweet potatoes for this garden bed. There's one of my naughty chickens who I will have to catch before I leave here because she'll come and dig all these up. The chicken's not the only one who wants to get in here for treats. So I'm just going to spread them through the gardens and get them planted. Oh, there's a potato I missed. Sliced in half. Now this little plant at the end here is the one that I trimmed off with just the short little root system at the end. So I'll be keeping an eye on it and just see how it goes compared to all the rest. Now, I kind of feel like that's a lot of sweet potatoes in these two garden beds, but I've put them at the edge here so that if there's any spillover, they can sort of come out this way. Usually I've got pumpkins in this area and I have two plants started here. One's a volunteer and one's a little Jap pumpkin. And I'll be throwing some more seeds in the ground, but if these sweet potatoes start to take off, they can certainly spread out into that area out there. Well, that's about 40 plants in the ground, which should give me a fantastic harvest come April next year. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Thanks so much for watching and bye for now.